Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video. Inside this small package is an iPhone 6s. I think this is a 16 gig model and I believe it's running iOS 13. I paid just about $23 for this iPhone. I think that's a pretty good deal. The 6s is a decently powerful smartphone and iOS 13 is a little bit older. It's not quite as interesting as iOS 9 or 10 in terms of running it on an iPhone 6s. But I'll take it either way. I probably would have bought this regardless of what version of iOS it had for 23 bucks. Let's get this opened up and see what kind of condition this iPhone is in and talk a little bit about it. Okay, here it is. It's in this beautiful rose gold color. You can see the S there on the back. I think this is the only iPhone where Apple has actually had to physically differentiate them with an actual letter S. Although I think the 4 and the 4S look pretty similar. I'm not sure why Apple decided to do that on these. But here it is. Let's see if it's turned on. It is not. Let's see if it has any power. And it does. So we're going to let that boot up. While that's loading, I'm going to give it a little bit of a clean here with some isopropyl alcohol. It looks to be really clean already, but you never know who touched it before you. And it's always nice to give the devices a little clean before we get into them here. It's actually taken quite a while to turn on. All right, we are at the setup screen. Before I get my fingerprints all over it, let's look at the condition of that display. Looks very nice. I mean, this iPhone looks brand new. Very clean. There's like no scratches or dents on this thing anywhere. This is a beautiful device. Let me go through the setup, and once we get to the home screen, we're going to talk about this iPhone. Okay, here we are, and I am not sure what version of iOS this is. I'm really not good past like iOS 10. I can't tell from the home screen. But this is in fact on 13.6.1, so I don't know if that's the last version of 13, but you can see this is a 16 gigabyte model. Let's see, I think this has battery health. I don't know when that was introduced. 94%, that's pretty good on a device this old. Very nice. Go ahead and turn on battery percentage there. So this is super clean. I guess I'm kind of going to turn this into a should you buy an iPhone 6s in 2024. For this price, absolutely $23. I mean, this is in really good condition, and I don't think you're going to be able to find one in this good condition for that price. I don't know what the going rate is for these, but I'd imagine it's around like, I don't know, $35 to $65 depending on capacity and condition and like network status. But the iPhone 6s kind of turned the page for Apple. It was the first iPhone that really set Apple up for the future in terms of performance. The dual core A9 chip inside this thing was way ahead of its time. Super powerful. Was the first iPhone to feature 2 gigabytes of RAM, which has gone such a long way in terms of this phone getting software updates. I think this phone, for a while, this was the most updated iPhone because we started at iOS 9 all the way through iOS 15. So 6 years of updates was the most at its time for sure. The iPhone 6 started at iOS 8 and ended at iOS 12. So we can attribute this iPhone 6s's amazing specs for its ability to get software updates for that long. Let's see if the iOS 13 App Store is working. It appears to be. I mean, this iPhone is so smooth. I realize I'm not recording this in 60 frames per second, but everything here, the animations are gorgeous. There were a lot of changes here in the iPhone 6s compared to the 6. And although they look the same, the build quality here on the 6s is actually substantially better. The iPhone 6 and 6 Plus had a bend gate issue because the aluminum was very thin and not rigid enough, so you could literally like bend your iPhone like that. A lot of people's iPhones were bent in their pocket. But the 6s changed that. They improved the strength and integrity of the outer shell while maintaining the same thin design. The iPhone 6S was the first iPhone since the 4S to increase megapixel count on the camera. So we actually got 12 megapixels here, which was a big improvement, and that allows for some really good pictures. So you can zoom in and get pretty good detail on subjects that are farther away. This was the first iPhone to feature 4K video recording. So you could do 4K at 4K at 30 FPS here on the iPhone 6S. We're going to head into camera settings, and there we go, 4K 30 FPS. Courtesy of that 12 megapixel sensor. Of course, we've got slow motion, which was introduced in the iPhone 5S and refined with the iPhone 6. And we've got great photos. Live photos was introduced for the first time here on the iPhone 6S. It's a very successful feature. Force Touch or 3D Touch, I forget which one it is, was introduced here on the iPhone 6S. Of course, it's been implemented into the software of all the newer iPhones, but this was the first one that actually had that pressure-sensitive system built into the display. iPhone 6S was also the first iPhone to feature the updated haptic motors, so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to hear this on the microphone. But it had a much improved vibration motor that was basically silent during normal operation compared to some of the older iPhones that were very loud. And it feels very prominent. And I'm sure anybody watching this, if you have an iPhone, your phone has these haptics. They were introduced in the 6S and then refined in the iPhone 7. Gorgeous device. I think it was the first iPhone to launch or ship in this rose gold color. So 4 color options here for the 6S. And it's a beautiful device. One other sort of overlooked feature of the 6S is the improved flash storage speeds. So I forget what the upgrade was. Maybe I can search it on Google here as I'm trying to talk about it. But the iPhone 6S improved significantly in the, I guess I'm going to call it an SSD, but the internal storage speed. So we'll do iPhone 6 versus 6S. I'll do flash storage speed. But it got significantly faster. Here we go. Here's a Mac Rumors forum. We'll see what they have to say. So this, I think, is talking about the 128 gigabyte, seeing how quick the storage is. So that's pretty fast. Almost 600 megabytes write and 1100 megabytes read. I mean, that's faster than some of the SSDs that Apple shipped in some of their earlier MacBooks. And that's actually quite a bit faster. Here you go, Samsung 850 SSD. I mean, that's a solid drive. And this iPhone is like twice as fast, at least on the read speeds, which is really the important part, right? So the read is what's happening when you're opening apps. So let's say you have a big application or a bunch of photos. When you're opening those and scrolling through them, the iPhone is reading that information from the solid state drive inside of it. This was a significant improvement over the iPhone 6, and that allowed for quicker boot times, quicker apps opening, and just an overall better feel for the device. Like I said, the hardware inside this was way ahead of its time, and it allowed this iPhone to remain very usable many years into the future. I think this is a great device. If you're buying one of these in 2024, find one with good battery health. And by good, I think anything above 80% at this point is considered good, just based on how old these iPhones are. Find one with a nice display that has not been replaced by a third party. If it's been replaced by Apple, go for it. Basically, it's the same as brand new. But a lot of times those displays, people don't migrate the home button, so you lose Touch ID, and the colors are just not very good. Gorgeous device. I definitely recommend getting 64 or 128 gigabytes because, as you can see here, my 16 gigabyte model leaves you with like no space. So there's 9.5 gigabytes left to use. And there's literally nothing on here. There's no apps, no photos, no videos. So if you're doing 4K video like this one is that I'm recording now, it takes up a lot of space. So you're going to want more storage, especially some of the larger applications. They have began to cache their files onto the device for improved performance. Okay, that's going to do it for this quick review here of this beautiful iPhone 6S running iOS 13 here in 2024. Highly recommend this phone. It's a great device. And if you can find one in good condition, absolutely go for it. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in another one of my videos.